You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
You're listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. Today, we're continuing our expert series in April, and I interview my friend and fellow school counselor, Ashley Bell. Ashley is the counselor, curriculum writer, and creative force behind Miss Bell, the Crafty Counselor, so you may recognize her. She's all about SEL and emotional regulation, and specifically in this episode, we're talking about advice for new school counselors. As an experienced counselor, Ashley looks back on things she wishes that she knew when she was first getting started and shares some really sound advice. So whether you are brand new, an intern, or perhaps you've been a counselor for a while, it's always good to hear some reminders and some practical advice that you wish you learned when you were first getting started. So wherever you are at in your counseling journey, I think you're going to love this episode with Ashley. Let's play a little game of Would You Rather, School Counselor Edition. Okay, would you rather spend your weekend planning a group or spend your afternoon sitting in irrelevant PD? Yikes. Or would you rather be the only counselor with no one to collaborate with or to spend hours searching online for engaging activities? All of these options are pretty bad, right? But unfortunately, they're all too real. But what if I told you I had a solution for you? What if I told you I had access to hundreds of school counseling lessons, groups, and activities, counselor-specific trainings on the topics you need most, and a community of like-minded school counselors to support you? You would say, yes, please. Well, that is what Impact is all about. Impact is my monthly membership for school counselors, and it helps you with all of these things. You get access to hundreds of resources. That's unlimited free downloads. Log in and get what you need right away to every single resource that's in my store. We add new resources each and every month. We're adding a new middle school and elementary resource each month, and some of these are bonus Impact exclusives, meaning that you can get resources just for members. You can request resources that you need and easily search so you can find exactly what you're looking for. And let's talk about the trainings, counselor-specific trainings on the topics you need most. We do these each and every month as part of our Coffee with the Counselor series. Impact members get to join for absolutely free. You earn PD certificates and you get exclusive access to members-only things like the Ultimate Small Group Experience and our Summer Summit Conference. And the community. Y'all, this is possibly my favorite part of Impact. I so look forward to jumping on these calls, to getting to know counselors who are similar to me and also completely different. It's so fun to hear from your experiences and your challenges, and everyone brings a unique perspective to the table. We have an exclusive online community, and we even have a cool app where you can chat with other counselors in these community circles. We have our monthly calls, like I mentioned, twice a month, and we share wins, troubleshoot tough cases, and just talk about what it's like to be a counselor, because so often we're on our own island at our school sites. So if any of that sounds like it's for you, I would love to see you inside Impact. Go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact to solve all of your counselor problems. And I have a special offer for my listeners. Use code POD at checkout to save 10% off your first month. Okay, let's go to today's episode. Hi, Ashley. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you. We collaborate a lot, I feel like, but not often like face to face. So, well, this will be just audio for the listeners, but it's good to see you in person and to kind of get to catch up. But for my listeners who don't know who you are, can you share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Ashley. I am the face behind Miss Bell, the Crafty Counselor. I've been a school counselor for roughly 10 years now. I focus on elementary level, and I love dealing with all things like social, emotional, anger regulation, just kind of anything that helps kids get control of themselves so that they can be the best version of themselves that they could possibly be.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. Thank you. And today, so through the month of April, we're kind of doing like an expert series where we're focusing on things that different people have expertise in. And for this episode, I want to chat with you about advice for new school counselors, because while you're not currently a new school counselor, you've been there before, and I'm sure you've given advice to those along the way. So I know in my membership, I have a lot of like first-time school counselors, and a lot of the podcast listeners are still in grad school. They may not have even started yet. So I love this topic because I feel like there's so many things that you can't learn in grad school, right? It just like comes in the profession. So let's just go ahead and dive in with that. If you want to share a few things of what advice you would give for a new school counselor.
Yeah, so the first thing I would start with is I always tell everybody when you first become a counselor, it's really easy to kind of like want to start a whole new program and kind of make everything your own and like dive head first and just start changing and implementing and just all of the things. And it's really important as a new school counselor or first year counselor at a new school to just kind of try to listen before you start just implementing. You don't have to do everything day one. You don't have to start a million new programs and meet every single student's needs the very first day. It's okay to kind of just take a deep breath, get acclimated with your area, reach out to the teachers that work at the school, kind of see what the needs are. So before you just start taking all those ideas from grad school or just kind of making everything your own, really take the time to get to know the students, know the population, know the teachers. And if you only get like one thing accomplished those first few weeks of school, then you're already winning. So it's really just get to know the school, get to know the needs before you start trying to do anything. So that would be my biggest piece of advice to a new counselor. Just listen more than you implement that first month of school.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually had a principal one time who was like, why don't you just go and like shadow the classrooms? Why don't you just go and like sit in the classrooms? And it seemed like a waste of time, kind of like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to go sit in this classroom for 20 minutes while they're teaching science. Like, why am I in here? Because I wasn't teaching or anything. I was just kind of a fly on the wall, but it was a cool way to get to know the teachers, like teaching styles, which I didn't have experience as a teacher before. So kind of picking up on like, oh, that's a good behavior management or classroom management strategy, or that's a cool teaching style just in general. And also just observing, right? The kids. It's kind of a cool way to see who's sitting by who's interacting this way, who's interrupting a lot, all of those
For
things.
sure.
Wow.
And that's like such a great thing to do those first few weeks of school. Just kind of like you said, be a fly on the wall. Just it's not that it's not like your domain, but you're the new person. Like the school knows what they need for the most part. So kind of sit back, listen, take the advice, do the classroom visits. Also, like stopping in during lunchtime kind of helps you really see how the kids like who's sitting together, like you said, who's sitting alone, who's interacting with each other, who seems to have a lot of friends, who doesn't. Like it's really those outside of academic times can teach you so much about your students. Like recess too. If you have the time, go out to the recess, go out to where recess is, kind of see who's playing, who's not, like who seems like they're causing some arguments during play, who seems like they are running the play, like
Right.
who is just kind of get the key players at your school and just really take the time to get to know everything because if you're implementing programs that your students don't need, then it's just a waste of everybody's time, and you have
Yeah.
such great ideas. So utilize the ones that your students actually need. So,
Absolutely. And I always encourage counselors if they have like a duty, like I used to have recess duty or like lunch duty, you kind of dread it, right? You're like, oh gosh, I got
right.
lunch. But you can make the most out of it. You can really use that time to do those observations or to like check in with students,
Mhm.
like a quick check in on progress. So
Oh,
I love those
so
ideas.
yeah, it's so great to use that time for that. And it's really great too to just like get to know your kids better. Like in
Mhm.
that it's a lot less pressure during like a lunch or a recess. So take that time to just really get to know your students.
100%. And when it comes to, so they're like, okay, I feel like I've got the first month or so, I got a feel for knowing everyone. What do you recommend in terms of like class lessons, small groups, individual, when it comes to all of that, scheduling tips or anything?
Yeah, so definitely meet with your principal and see like what they're expecting of you. Are they the kind of principal that wants you in every single class once a semester? Do they want you there once a month? Like what do they envision for your role? And then from that, you can kind of build in times and build a schedule that encompasses everything. But I would really say that first semester is gonna really, or like that first 9 weeks is just gonna be kind of you getting your foot in the door, you figuring out what's needed. And if you only start like one small group or get into classrooms just once for like a counselor introduction lesson, then you really are winning. As long as
Yeah.
are getting to know your kids and you just do one thing from your list, then you have done so phenomenal. And then from there, you can really see like what works, what doesn't, what your schedule has time for, like what days seem to be overtaking your schedule. Like you'll learn very quickly, like a Monday morning or a Friday afternoon is not when you want to have anything planned.
Right.
You'll kind of get to know the
100%.
needs of your school and build a schedule around that.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. It's kind of like a low pressure thing, right? Just try to do
Yeah,
one thing. Because I
just
remember when
one
I was,
thing.
getting started, I was like so excited for groups. I
Hmm.
would see all these ideas on Pinterest and stuff. And I was almost like recruiting people like for groups.
Hmm.
But then you'll realize soon enough you'll be like overwhelmed with referrals. So the kids will come, you will get referrals. So
You
don't,
will just
yeah.
take it slow. When I first started as a counselor, I think my second week of school, I started 6 different small groups because I
Oh
was
wow.
like, I got this. I got the curriculum. I was like brand new, had all my energy. I was so excited. And after about I think it was 2 weeks later, I had canceled at least a session or two from every single group
Yeah.
because it just wasn't realistic. So
Right.
you can start out that strong, but then you're going to just have to take things away, cancel stuff. Like it's just not, it's easier to start slow and add things on as you go instead of trying to just like break through with stuff that your school might not even need.
Right. So do you do a needs assessment or recommend doing a needs assessment?
Oh, for sure. There are hundreds of needs assessments. Like if you literally just type in like school counselor needs assessment
Yeah.
in Google, there's hundreds that come up. Your district might actually have one that they require you to use. So you could check with that to see if there's a resource for that. But I would start with a needs assessment with the staff, kind of see what the staff thinks is needed. And then you can always push out a needs assessment to the students. So you can kind of see what the students are saying too. But I would start with the staff because they're the ones observing, they're the ones managing, they're the ones who see what's going on. So a needs assessment would be a really great way to kind of see what's needed, what those small group needs are, and just kind of give you a really good starting point.
Yeah. And even I like to remind counselors you can do a needs assessment like at a midpoint in the school year as
Hmm.
well, because sometimes I've, been eager before, like, I'm going to do a needs assessment in August, and that's great. But there might be new teachers and they're like, I don't even know these kids. I don't even know
Hmm.
what the needs are. Or so often, like, there's kind of a little honeymoon period. Things are fine at the beginning of the year. But maybe by like October, by March or something, things kind of get crazy. So you can always do a
Absolutely.
needs assessment quarterly, semester, whatever.
Yeah, I always try to do it quarterly because to your point, the needs change throughout the year. And
Yeah.
what might have been working really well the first quarter might be failing completely the second quarter. And things always need to be tweaked. And when we're talking about, I mean, we're talking about little kids, we're talking about elementary school students. Their needs are going to change and evolve like every day, it seems like,
Right.
depending on the situation. So it is really good to kind of get a pulse on your school, and needs assessments frequently, at set intervals is a really great way to do that.
I love that. Do you have any recommendations for counselors when it comes to collaborating with parents or teachers?
Be very patient because parents and teachers are going to, I have learned throughout my career that they hear that word counselor and they just want to tell their whole life story, which is so great. Like it's so nice to have that much information, but they also expect you to be able to kind of fix their whole life also like very quickly. Like they always I'm sure you've heard them say like counselors, like we don't have a magic wand, but it's
Right.
so true. Like I think that people look at counselors as like, oh, you can fix everything. You're the one-stop shop for it all. And just kind of know that they're going to see you that way. And it's okay to kind of remove that pressure from yourself. You don't have to have all the answers. It's okay to just fully listen to a parent, like talk about everything, and then say, I'm not really sure how we're going to move forward with this yet. Like I need to think of a plan. Like let me do some observations. Let's figure out a plan together. You don't have to know it right that moment, but just be very patient, very listening, empathetic, and just kind
Right.
of hear them out and then go from there.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we just kind of give off that vibe. I feel like I'll be in an Uber sometimes and they'll like tell me their
Yes.
life story. I was like, oh, okay, great.
I have a very
Um,
like talk to me face. Like
yeah.
I just want to talk to me. So, which is
Yeah.
great. It's wonderful, but you don't
Right.
have to have all the answers.
100%. What about in terms of like lesson planning? Do you recommend that they kind of like lesson plan the whole year in advance, month by month, kind of wing it as needs change? Because unlike teachers who do like a full scope and sequence, I know counselors, the needs do change and so much of it is referral based. So what's kind of a
Mhm.
strategy that you recommend for that?
I used to try to like map out the whole year at the beginning of the year. And honestly, like to your point, the needs change so frequently that it never worked for me. So if you're the kind of person that can like map out the whole year, I give you so much credit. But what I try to do is kind of so our district has like a word of the month. So like September, for example, would be citizenship, or November is like gratitude. And so I try to use that as like a framework. So I try to build my lessons off of that because it's really easy with my district. They set it up really well for us. but you can kind of just think about it in chunks. Like the first 9 weeks, second, third, and fourth, you got 4 chunks you have to get through. And you just want to make sure you have high quality lessons that are meeting those needs. And if it's not, if you're not doing so great 9 weeks, just step it up the next, and you can, kind of build upon that. And as being a new counselor, nobody's going to expect you to be perfect the very first time you're doing it. So it's just kind of, I get all of my lessons from either the district or from my counselor friends on Teacher Pay Teacher, or I just make something up based on my students' needs. I throw a lesson together for them. I mean, it's very like high quality research based. I don't just
Right.
together, but you got my point.
Right.
So, but it really just varies based on needs. So try to just do like the first quarter and then go from there.
I love that. Yeah, you're making this sound so like easy and effortless. I feel like it's going to be an encouraging episode.
Oh my gosh, it's not an easy job. It is so difficult. So remove some of that pressure and stress from yourself. We get it enough from everybody else. You don't need to get it from yourself too.
That's such a good point.
It'll all fall into place. Or it won't, and then you'll figure it out from there. One of the two.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. For my last question, do you have any like tools or little tips or hacks or something that you figured out that's just kind of like a game changer that you would share? So maybe like something you use, it could be like a tech tool or hack or like a strategy you use that you just keep coming back to or recommend.
It is so silly, but one of my favorite strategies, it's so simple, it's so easy, but it's so effective. So like that first beginning of school, you're going to have a lot of kindergartners that are kind of like stressed out or overwhelmed or crying in the hallway, or just students in general that are very anxious about coming back to school. And one of my favorite strategies with them, sometimes they don't really want to talk to you. They don't want to, interact. They're just really upset. They're not ready to talk. So saying something like, give me a 1 if you just need a few minutes to breathe, give me a 2 if you are ready to go back to class, or just something like that. So they can hold up 1 finger if it's the first answer, 2 if it's the second answer. And it just makes it, they don't have to actually talk to me, but I can narrow it down. So like if they're upset, I could say like, give me a 1 if something happened at school, give me a 2 if something happened at home. And then I can at least know like, okay, something happened when we're on campus, or this is before they got to campus. And they can just show me 1 finger or show me 2 fingers. And then you just kind of lead with that line of questioning, and they just have to put a finger up. So they can have like their head down, they can be buried in their desk, they can be with like a hoodie in their jacket, but they'll show me 1 or 2 fingers. So it really, it's so silly, it's so simple, but it's so effective.
No, I'm going to use this with my son. Like
I do it with my kids all the time.
Great. Yeah, we had a tough drop off the other day, and I got all upset, and then I was like trying to talk, like I'm so much talking. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not working. So I think probably would have worked better than that.
Yeah, sometimes removing the need to talk is all that it takes.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I love that. That's so good. And it's like not even like draw a picture. It's like you could do it in the hallway.
So discreet.
Yeah.
No.
Love that. Awesome. Well, this has been some great advice, Ashley. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today. Where can the listeners find you if they want to connect and learn more?
Yes. So thank you so much for having me today. I always love talking to you. I look up to you so much. So I'm so glad that we could do this together. But for me, on most social media platforms, I'm Miss Bell, MRS Bell, the Crafty Counselor, or you can go to missbellthecraftycounselor.com. I am on Teacher Pay Teacher, Etsy. I have my own store on my website. So just Miss Bell, the Crafty Counselor.
Fun. I love Etsy. I know I have on my list like to get into Etsy because I'm a big Etsy fan, like as a customer. I ordered all this Easter stuff. But yeah, I know that's why I always forget to search for stuff there as well. So
I'm trying to move into like selling like actual workbooks for people who don't have the ability to print at home. So that's coming soon.
Awesome. Well, we will check it out. Well, thank you so much for your time. And as always, it's so good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.